purpose of all of this is to really work to understand what motivates employees across the entire employee life cycle. So when we talk about engagement, when people measure engagement, they measure it at one point in time. It's very unidimensional and it's very one size fits all. What we're talking about is motivating people across the entire span of their careers within an organization. So whether that be through acquisition, onboarding,
in terms of placing employees in the right jobs that align with their motivators, to keeping them motivated through performance reviews and tailored communications, all the way through retention. What we're really thinking about is engagement from a more holistic standpoint, not engagement from a very sort of narrow unidimensional perspective.
And then ultimately how long you can retain them within the organization over time. Are you growing people from the very start of their career that are going to stay with the company for a while and become really all-stars, heavy hitters within the organization? That's what we're talking about here. So it's not just measuring at different points in time how engaged people are and then taking a guess as to what might engage people over time, but rather really understanding the dynamic motivators that exist within people, what it is that motivates them when they get on that job, what it is that's going to motivate them to stay there, and really tailoring the positions to fit those motivators over time so that you end up with a really long-lasting and dedicated employee. Acquisition and onboarding are really important for organizations for a couple of reasons. One is because the war for talent is really intense. Organizations are very much so looking to get the best and brightest people into their organizations and away from their competitors. And turnover is a huge issue, right? And oftentimes what happens when people turn over is that they turn over within the onboarding process very early on within their engagement within the organization. And part of the reason for this is because we use a very generalized approach to assessing candidates, approaching candidates, to negotiating with candidates, to making offers to candidates. We sort of use the same cookie cutter approach to every candidate that's interested in the organization. And we know that people are much more complex than that people join organizations for much more complex reasons. So using a one-size-fits-all solution to attract people to the organization and to keep people engaged with that process early on in their engagement with the organization is not as complex as the people that you're trying to attract. So what we offer, what we think is a good solution to that, is really understanding what are the motivators that do exist within the candidate pool that you want to pull from. How do you better understand who's interested in your organization and how you can get them on board within your organization in a very targeted way. So imagine if you could tailor the communications that you're having with potential candidates so that they resonate with what motivates that individual person, so that they're more likely to accept that offer than an offer from somebody else, because you're actually speaking to them, you're speaking their language. And that's what's really powerful about this particular assessment, is that now you can have that information in front of you and make decisions about how to engage with candidates before they even get on the job, how you're going to communicate with those candidates and get them on board, because you're speaking directly to them, whereas your competitors are speaking to everyone in the same way.
So one of the difficulties many supervisors and managers have is thinking about how do they motivate their employees. They don't really have an understanding of inherently, at a deeper level, individual differences between their employees in terms of what motivates them and in turn engages them at work. So what we're trying to do here is really to understand from a managerial standpoint, how can you promote that understanding in supervisors and managers, where they're not just blindly going into performance reviews and not having some understanding of how they can motivate their employees through understanding what inherently motivates them. So again, we're pulling back the layers. You sort of think about an orange, peeling back that orange, getting sort of to the deeper essence of what motivates people. This is really important information for managers in terms of motivating their employees and having some understanding of how they can cultivate more effective supervisor-subordinate relationships. We can also think about it from the standpoint of teamwork. We think about, who else on the team has similar motivators to me or different motivators to me. Providing that understanding, that assessment and knowledge of what different people on the team are motivated by can create that sort of synergy that we're looking to promote amongst team members. So if we have some understanding of employees' underlying inherent motivators, we can use that information in order to create tailored communications that speak specifically to employees. So whether we're thinking about, for example, mergers and acquisitions, open enrollment programs, benefits programs, we can tailor those communications regarding those specific initiatives towards employees where they really feel that those communications are speaking to them and that are ultimately engaging to them.